Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Johnny Payne, Master of Ceremonies, and on behalf of the Carl Vinson VA Medical Director, David Whitmer, Associate Director Jay DeWorth, and other members of the Carl Vinson VA Medical Center, welcome to today's Memorial Day program. Thank each of you for attending such an important program. We're here today to honor our service members and to remember the sacrifices they have made in honor of duty, honor, and country. To present our colors today, we have the Warner Robins Air Force Base Honor Guard. Would you please stand, if possible, for the presentation of colors, national anthem, pledge of allegiance, and the invocation. Color Guard, present colors. Ms. Wanda Wiltshire will now sing our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Now Ms. Harriet Coxon will come lead us in our pledge.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you open your programs, the inside cover on the left-hand side, and read with me the American's Creed. I believe in the United States of America as a government of the people, by the people, for the people, whose just powers are derived from the consent of the governed, a democracy and a republic, a sovereign nation of many sovereign states, a perfect union, one and inseparable, established upon those principles of freedom, equality, justice, and humanity, for which American patriots sacrificed their lives and fortunes. I therefore believe it is my duty to my country to love it, to support its Constitution, to obey its laws, to respect its flag, and to defend it against all enemies.
This time I'd like to call on Chaplain Lindsay for our prayer. Open.
Let us pray together. most holy and divine, we gather on this Memorial Day to pay tribute to those men and women who have made the supreme sacrifice of life itself for the preservation of the freedom of our beloved nation, for their devotion to duty, for their willingness to accept the responsibility of a solemn, sacred mission. We give you thanks. We are humbly grateful that their wishbones were not where their backbones should have been, that they did not choose the path of ease and comfort, but accepted the challenge of difficulty. They were men and women whose hearts were clear and whose goals were high, men and women who mastered themselves. Bless the loved ones of those whom we honor today. Fill them with a pride that is truly justified and a spiritual comfort that comes only from you, O Lord. We make these petitions in the name of the one who give us life, peace, and freedom. Amen.
It's that time of year, time to fire up the grill, relax, and have some fun. Whether you're a grill master or a wannabe, the Big Green Egg will change the way you think about cooking. Georgia Pools has a large selection from which to choose. They carry a wide variety of accessories too, from charcoal, starters, to grilling tools, seasonings, and sauces. Get your own Big Green Egg cooking system for as low as $58.83 per month. And while you're waiting on that perfect steak to cook, relax in your very own Pawleys Island hammock. What better way to spend the summer days ahead? When you're thinking of grilling and chilling, think Georgia Pools, located at 1201 Hillcrest Parkway in Dublin. Call Georgia Pools at 275-3607. Find new roads in a new Chevrolet. Dublin Chevrolet is offering employee pricing on all remaining 2018 Silverados. Right now, with this offer, you can save over $12,000 on a new Crew Cab Z71 LT Chevy. And this month, 0% financing is available on all 2019 Silverados. Find your new Chevy today at Dublin Chevrolet.
Call, click, or come see us. Dublin Chevrolet, the only dealer you will ever need.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. I really appreciate the warm welcome that I've received in the community. I have literally been here for 2 weeks as your new medical center director, and I can tell you, I know that I made the right choice in coming here. After the year-long assignment that I had in Roseburg, really to rescue what had been a challenged and troubled system, it gave me essentially the inspiration to say that I wanted to end my public health career serving as a VA Medical Center director. And in many ways, Roseburg, Oregon, reminds me a lot of Dublin, Georgia. They're both small towns that have a larger VA, literally 1,200 employees in the town employed in Roseburg and about 1,500 here in Dublin, so a big part of the town, and I recognize the importance the VA has in the community. And so it was with that pride that I drove up this morning and had a chance to see all of our American flags out. And again, it's just a solemn reminder to me how important the VA is to a community like Dublin, Georgia, and what a great honor it is for me personally to lead our 1,500 employees to deliver outstanding health care that our veterans have earned. And so in the course of these 2 weeks, I've had a chance to meet with our civic leaders, with veterans groups, with elected officials, of course our staff, and many of the rounds that I've done in the 2 weeks that I've been here, our local media as well, and just have been very pleased and welcomed into the community. And I'm just very excited about this opportunity to lead the Dublin VA, the Carl Vinson VA Medical Center, to new greatness and a true focus on primary care, on mental health, as well as our community living centers and our at-home domiciliary care for our veterans that may be in recovery with PTSD or with substance abuse. And this is just a beautiful campus, an incredible environment of care for our veterans to get their care here in this community. Today I wanted to give you some remarks on Veterans Day and what it means to me personally. And I just, again, first want to welcome you to the Carl Vinson VA Medical Center as we honor America's heroes on this Memorial Day. Again, my name is Dave Whitmer, and I'm the new director here. And Memorial Day provides an especially important date in our nation's calendar of commemoration for those who fell in battle. This Memorial Day marks the 151st time that we recognize this special day that began in 1868. And I do acknowledge that the first of those services was in nearby Columbus, Georgia. It's an opportunity for us to express both mourning and meaning, and a time for remembering and for respect. Across America and around the world, people struggle to find words that give proper honor to the lives of those who gave their last full measure of devotion, knowing that words alone are never enough. Today is about rendering proper honor to men and women who devoted their lives to principles far greater than self. Their heritage of selfless service and sacrifice began almost 2.5 centuries ago on the fields of the American Revolution, a war during which our nation's basic tenets were born into documents like the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution. The revolutionary Thomas Paine, who was the voice of the common man at that time, and in his words expressed the reason and the need for this sacrifice. Those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom must undergo the fatigue of supporting it. And over the intervening years and in defining moments of calm and crisis, Americans in uniform have realized our most fervent hopes and vanquished our darkest fears through their noble actions. Across the hallowed grounds at our national cemeteries, among the broad lawns and the white stones, Americans lie forever still and forever honored because, like their brothers and sisters in arms and before them, they left to us, their countrymen, and in many cases for people of other nations, the blessings of freedom. Their actions defined our destiny and wrote the chapters of our country's history in blood, sweat, and tears. And they did not fail us, and therefore we must not fail them. So today we commemorate the service and sacrifice of all generations of those who gave their lives in service to the United States. Just over 100 years ago, the war to end all wars ground to a halt. World War I had been devastating in scope, in destruction, and death. The total casualties, those killed and wounded, military and civilian, exceeded 41 million people from all nations involved. During that horrific conflict, over 4.7 million Americans served, and of those 53,000 were killed in combat, with over 204,000 wounded. Just 2 decades later, after the Great War, another world war erupted, during which 16 million Americans served, with 300,000 making the ultimate sacrifice to free Europe, Africa, and the Pacific from tyranny. Only 6 years later, nearly 2 million Americans were called to serve in Korea, where 33,000 of them gave their lives to rescue a desperate people from communist aggression. Over 3.4 million men and women served in Vietnam, and the names of those nearly 58,000 are now listed on a long black wall in the nation's capital, lest we forget their sacrifices and the sacrifices of their families. And to all of those who made it back, we say, welcome home. Since Vietnam, Americans have been deployed under arms to nearly a dozen troubled lands: Lebanon, Grenada, Panama, Somalia, Haiti, the Balkans, and the Middle East. Millions have now served in Iraq and Afghanistan since 2001, and thousands have given their lives in those places. Courageous Americans of every generation have stepped forward to fight for freedom when called upon. So it is today is the day for remembrance, for gratitude, and exoration of those great Americans. At the Carl Vinson VA Medical Center, we take great pride in providing health care at our hospitals and our outpatient clinics, as well as with our VA partners in the vet centers, the regional benefits office, and our national cemeteries. We are proud to add to our voices to the chorus of those honoring and celebrating the 1 million Americans who paid the ultimate price to secure the blessings of liberty for our nation and for our friends and allies around the world. This Memorial Day, millions of Americans will return to the hallowed grounds and our national and state cemeteries, as well as VA medical centers like the Carl Vinson VA Medical Centers, and in countless hometown fields of honor. And with silent prayers and grateful thoughts, remember those in turn who lit the way for even a brighter future for our nation. By your presence here today at our ceremony, and by our words of gratitude to our active duty troops and to our veterans, and by our advocacy in the public and private sectors, we reinforce the covenant between America and the men and women who protect and defend her. We do this because we recognize a basic truth, and it is in large part that the deeds of the American veteran, especially those interred in those very special places, they bind us to our noble past, they strengthen us in our difficult present, and they inspire us to meet our future challenges. On this day of reflection at our sacred place, our VA Medical Center, we honor great deeds, achievements, and personal fortitude, and we pay tribute to the constancy and commitment, the faith and fidelity of those veterans and those who gave their lives. Thank you all for visiting our medical center today and for paying tribute. And may God bless those we honor today, those currently serving America in uniform, and to all of our nation's veterans. Thank you.
Ready for any challenge. Cordless power made by Steel, only from approved Steel dealers.
Cullen Supply and Engine Service, 910 East Jackson Street in Dublin and 826 South Harris, Sandersville. Count on Cullen's.
So I have also the honor to introduce our special speaker. You had a chance to hear Mr. Johnny Payne, but I wanted to give him a proper introduction. You know, as Mr. Payne mentioned, he was one of the veterans I had a chance to meet while I was interviewing here and frankly at several other VAs on the East Coast. And as I was deciding where did I want to serve as a VA Medical Center director. And I have to tell you, the interaction that I had with Mr. Payne really, it meant something to me. I knew that there was just such a personal interest in having a director come here, but also a representative of the veteran community. And so in that intervening time between when I interviewed and when ultimately I made a decision to come here, I had a chance to interact with Mr. Payne on several occasions, as well as other veterans in this community. But it really spoke to me that how important this VA Medical Center is to this community, and what I thought I could do in terms of providing leadership to our staff. And so I'm just very pleased to be here, but also pleased to now have a great friend in Johnny Payne. So Mr. Payne has been a resident of Dublin. He and his wife Sue Ann, who I was fortunate enough to meet earlier, have 4 children and 4 grandchildren. He's currently the president and CEO of the Heart of Georgia United Way, and he's been involved in this community, serving on several boards, and also very active in the First Baptist Church. So this is a man who's given his time and a dedication to the improvement of this town. He is a Vietnam veteran, and having proudly served as a sergeant and platoon leader in the U.S. 1st Air Division Cavalry, Bravo 1, 7th Cavalry, and the 4th Platoon, where he received many distinguished awards, including the Bronze Star with a V for Valor, the Air Medal V for Valor, the 28 Combat Air Assault Under Fire, a Combat Infantryman badge, an Air Commendation Medal with a V for Device, and he is currently a member of the VFW and the American Legion. And he's also served as an MC for nearly 25 years at this VA for Memorial Day. So before I introduce Mr. Payne, who you all know and love and respect, I did want to offer him just one small token of my personal appreciation to really inspire me to come and lead this VA. We have a challenge coin that we provide to our honored guests that just again, is a small token of appreciation for, again, the personal gratitude I have for you. Mr. Payne. Thank you.
Thank you. I think by hearing him talk about his passion for serving others and the wanting to come and be a part of our community speaks well, and I think you now know why the team was proud to select him. One other person I forgot to recognize, and there's probably more I could, but one of my proudest honors was chairing the Vietnam Moving Wall that came here. 2 of those people are very instrumental in making it come to fruition and making it happen. Mr. Buddy Adams. In about 7 days, Mr. Buddy Adams raised almost $30,000 for the cost and expenditures for that. Mr. Buddy Adams, would you please stand? We had 457 volunteers plus. I had the honor of working with Command Sergeant Major Dean Swan. We read the names of the 58,000 plus on the wall one time, and then almost a half continuously. We had many other events going on. Without one hitch, 457 plus, it never skipped a beat, and it's all Command Sergeant Major Dean Swan. Dean, would you stand, please? He was former director of our volunteer services here. Lots of times I've had the opportunity to speak about our country, serving with others, and today I'd like to dedicate my speech in memory of Sergeant Albert J. Vanderhaeg, Bravo Company, 1st Battalion, 7th Cav, United States Army, 4th Platoon, December the 18th, 1948 to December the 29th, 1970. I'll come back to why I feel like it's an honor for me to memorize a time we served together. As we get ready for different things, Memorial Day weekend, it picks up in our schools, our workplaces, in our communities prior to our military, and asks how can we best honor and remember our nation's veterans and those who have fallen in service to our country. Those thoughts come into each of one of us' mind, and your mere presence here today means so much to those who have given his or her lives to our country. We may not see them, we may have known them, but their spirit is with us in everything that we do, and we owe our freedom to those people. As Margaret Mead once said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. You're doing an important thing by being here. We can all make a difference in our individual acts. As we leave here today, I hope that you will take with you something and you'll reach out to your family, to your friends, and your co-workers in days ahead as we move forward remembering those.
Come to Roach Farm and Garden and take home something beautiful. Our Gardens by the River has an excellent selection of statuaries, bird baths, fountains, and a wide variety of flowers, fruit trees, and shrubs. Or come inside and take a look at our decorative accents. Our friendly staff will help you find just what you need for your next outdoor project. And we carry those unique items that are hard to find. Come visit us today. Roach Farm and Garden, Dublin.
Roach Farm and Garden, growing traditions.
People often ask me why I got into racing in the first place. Well, there are actually 3 reasons. 1, for the fun of it. 2, for the excitement. And 3, for the pizza.
Hurry into your Jet Food store today and don't forget to call ahead and we'll have your favorite Hunt's Brothers pizza made to order. Come to your hometown Jet Deli today.
At this time, I'd like for all the veterans who have served in this great country, please stand and remain standing. I'm going to read you something that each one of these gentlemen heard. They raised his or her right hand and they swore to do this oath. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officer appointed over me, according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice, so help me God. Each one of these standing took that oath, and they raised their right hand, and they said, I do. Please be seated, please. Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. For many of us, the Civil War, the Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, and the Korean War are ancient history. The Vietnam War, a fading memory, but in the most recent Operation Desert Storm, Enduring Freedom, and Iraq Freedom, we, the American people, have once again been thrust into the position of remembering those who are fighting and dying today. I would like to think that in the days ahead, that we will not lose another soldier. But realistically, unfortunately, we will probably lose one today. For that family and that call, that person knocking on his or her door from 5 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock in the evening is the protocol. Hearing that first and foremost, it saddens my heart. Memorial Day is a day for all soldiers. Is embedded in the words of the oath that we just read. I, like my father and son Cliff, I am and was proud of serving in the United States Army. I was in Vietnam and knew what Memorial Day is all about. I do know what it's all about. My father was like many. Until about 2 years ago, I never knew that he had received 3 Bronze Stars. 3, not 1. He, like many, never talked about his service nor the time he spent in the service. Each one of you has your own stories. But my father was one of those heroes, along with others who have served. Soldiers bear truth and faith, allegiance to that document, that oath. They work and live with the codes of the military justice. They also obey the orders of the President of the United States. These truths are self-evident in the everyday lives of soldiers. It ends with, so help me God, blasting from that cold stone. When I think of Arlington Cemetery, and I think of my daddy's grave, I think of that headstone, that cold stone. But the warmth that lies beneath it reaches out to all those around about us. Without that service and that cold stone, we wouldn't be here today to celebrate the freedoms we so rightly serve. I mentioned I wanted to dedicate this speech to a co-warrior who died on December the 20th, 1970, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. If you'll bear with me, some of you who have served in the infantry, who was a grunt, and who had the opportunity to go on patrol, you will understand a little bit more about what I'll say. But I wanted to share with you a little bit in the life of a grunt. This is a story that I may have shared with my wife and a few other people. As I think about Al Vanderhaeg, I think about that day. Many times through the years, I've thought about it, many times. Bravo Company, the 1st and the 7th Cal, 4th Platoon. I was honored to be the platoon leader at this point in time. I walked point. In the mornings and in the afternoons, Al would walk point. We called them light and heavies. Our mission was to engage and destroy. We were sometimes 7 days, 30 days, sometimes without food for several days. But our mission was to engage and destroy. We went through the jungle looking for the enemy. We had our backup people with us, but it was normally about 18 to 20 of us, and 9 would go out in the morning, and 9 would come back, pick up the rest of the team. We'd go to where I stopped or where the point person stopped. Then we would move forward. Well, on this particular day, we went out first. And I've said this before, my being born and raised in the country, hunting and fishing on the banks of Rocky Creek and the Oconee River had a lot to do, along with God above, for me being here today. The instincts, the ability to smell, the ability to hear, the ability to have that presence about you, your physical attributes, all have a way of surviving. On that particular day, we went about a half a click, which is a long way in the jungle. We never followed a trail. I'd rather them hear me coming off the side of a trail than to walking quietly down a trail, walking into an ambush. Without going further into detail what we did that day, but we normally had 3 or 4 people that were called a particular leadership, and we also had the others who were called the gun squad, carried the M60 machine gun. He had 2 or 3 people carrying 200 rounds of ammo for the machine gun in case we got in a firefight. Well, behind the point man was someone with a compass. He would have the asterisk that we would follow, trying to move forward. Then we had the radio operator, and sometimes we had a lieutenant or platoon leader or platoon guide there with us. That particular day, I got to a certain point. It was about noon, and I knew something wasn't right. I felt it. I sensed it. I said, we need to go back and stop here and go back and get the rest of our platoon. As I went back, we went back and got the rest of our platoon. We came back to the point where I had stopped. This is where it gets really difficult to talk about what happened shortly thereafter. We would sit around at that point in time and we'd eat out of sea ration cans. We would warm up water if we had water and pour it into the lurp. And a spaghetti lurp was something that everybody liked to have. And I had opened the spaghetti lurp and was fixing to eat that lurp. And shortly before that, I told Al, I said, Al, something is not right. Please, please, please be careful. He said, okay, Big Don. So I just had that sense. He walked out of the area where about where Gus is standing, he took 4 rounds to the chest. Why? That wasn't me. And many times, I wish it had been me. I got to believe in my heart that if I had been the one who had been killed, that somewhere Al Manderhay, Sergeant, would be speaking on my behalf. In the military, we call it having our six, our back. The last words he said, I love my country. Please tell my mama I love her. Recently, I had a chance to speak with one of our chaplains, Chaplain Julian, who's been here at the VA for many years, 11, 12 years. When we talked about the potter's hands in Jeremiah, we talked about the potter making the vase. We talked about that potter sometime not being just right, and the potter would make it and disassemble it, put it back in the water, and he'd start redoing it. Well, throughout life, I think each one of us has been in the potter's hands and following God's leadership to the potter. In closing, I'd like to say you're still in God's hand. The potter is still molding each and every one of us. There's been times when we may spilt water out of that potter, but I think each time God allowed us to move forward. I thank you for allowing me to share the story about a sergeant who died for his country. He also came back on his second tour of Vietnam so his brother would not have to come. The story goes on, and others were killed during my time in battle, but this one is still resident with me today. He is on the wall, and I had the opportunity to go to Washington and engrave his name on the wall. At this time, we have special music by Ms. Wanda Butcher.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. Before we have an opportunity to hear more from, I wanted to make sure that we gave you this certificate of appreciation. This is just commemorates your opportunity here to speak as our keynote speaker for this VA celebration for Memorial Day. Thank you, Mr. Payne.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anna Grace with Myers Equipment and Supply, your dealer for the complete line of Can-Am side-by-sides and ATV products. For hunting, farming, or riding the trails, Can-Am has the models you need. If you like a little sport to your ride, choose the versatile Can-Am Commander. With the best-in-class power and versatility, this side-by-side features the essentials that change the off-road landscape. Industry-leading performance, precision-engineered handling, and rider-focused design are all on display every time you hit the throttle. Come into Myers Equipment today and see the full line of Can-Am ATVs and side-by-sides. Can-Am, the ride says it all.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He hath loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. Oh, glory, glory, hallelujah. Oh, glory, glory, hallelujah. Oh, glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
Once again, I'd like to say it's an honor and a privilege to be here today to represent the Post, also represent VFW, DAV, all the other organizations that are here that support veterans today, as we pause for a moment to recognize those who sacrificed everything they had once in order to preserve the freedoms and the liberties of our beloved United States of America. For those who have served and those continuing service in the uniformed services of the United States are ever mindful that the sweetness of enduring peace has always been tainted by the bitterness of personal sacrifice. We are compelled to never forget that while we enjoy our daily pleasures, there may be others who have endured or continue to endure the agonies of pain, deprivation, and imprisonment. As we continue today's activities, we shall pause to recognize our POWs and MIAs. I call attention to the table that's in front of me, which holds a place of dignity and honor. It is set for one, symbolizing the fact that members of our armed forces are missing from our ranks. They are referred to as our POWs and MIAs. We call them comrades, for they are unable to be with their loved ones and their families, so we join with them to pay humble tribute and bear witness to their continued absence. The table is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against his or her suppressors. The tablecloth is white, symbolic of their purity, of their intention to serve our beloved United States of America. The single rose in the vase signifies the blood that they may have shed in sacrifice to ensure the freedom of our United States of America. The rose also reminds us of the family and friends of our missing comrades who keep the faith while awaiting their return. The red ribbon in the vase represents the ribbons on the lapels of thousands who demand with unyielding determination a proper accounting of our comrades who are not amongst us. A slice of lemon on the plate reminds us of their bitter fate. The salt sprinkled on the plate reminds us of the countless fallen tears of the families as they await. The glass is inverted, for they are not with us at this time. The chair is empty, for they are not here. The candle is reminiscent of the light of hope which lives in our hearts to illuminate their way home, away from their captors to the open arms of a grateful nation. The candle is lit, symbolizing the upward reach of their unconquerable spirit. The American flag reminds us that many of them may never return and may have already paid the supreme sacrifice to ensure our freedoms. The Bible represents the strength gained through faith in our country, founded as one nation, so blessed by God, to sustain us in their lost faith in their midst. The Bible is open to 1 Samuel chapter 20, verse 18. Thou shalt be missed, for thy seat is empty. Let us pray to the Supreme Commander that all of our comrades will be back in our arms and be back within our ranks. I now ask that we have a moment of silence for our POWs and our MIAs. At this time, I'd like to once again recognize our POW that is here, Mr. Fletcher. Also, I'd like to recognize Mr. Mac Fitzgerald, who was a POW for 13 months, who recently passed away on 10 April of this year. He was always present, always here amongst us, and had he been here today, he would have been 99 years old. I just wanted to pause and thank him for his service, and I wanted to remember him. And on the MIA side, for those of you who have not known this, a Corporal James C. Ricks, Korean War veteran who was killed on the 30th of November 1950, after 69 years, has finally been returned to Dublin, Georgia, and is now resting next to his mom down in near Cedar Grove. And what I wanted to bring out was a mom's love. She always knew that one day that her son would come home. And through the efforts of literally hundreds of people, on the 4th day of May this year, 35 years after her death, James now lies beside his mom. A mother's home, a mother's hope. There are far too many people in this room to thank for that happening, but you know who you are. One in particular, though, I want to point out is Greg Schwartz, who did an outstanding job in cataloging, filming it, putting it all together, and making sure that people can see it in posterity for years and years to come. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Our always honored to have our official Georgia State bagpiper, Dan Bray. Thank you, Dan. Let's give him a round of applause. And his lovely wife, Kathy, is joining him today. As we come to the close of this service, before you leave, I want you to put a few thoughts to those seated around you. Reach out your hand. Thank them for his or her service and for being here today. Take a moment, not just for Memorial Day, but every day. Thank those who you know have fallen. For those who've never left the battlefields, we must hold them up in our hometowns and honor their memories. So please, please, spend some extra time with your loved ones. Step back from the daily stresses and reflect on your freedoms that so many of our sons and daughters died to protect. I'm not asking you not to have a barbecue. I'm just asking you to remember why you have the luxury and freedom we enjoy today. Thank you, and may God bless. This concludes our program.